Hello and welcome to the third episode of Beyond the Hype, a podcast put together by the Jesuit Youth Office, the Jesuit Communications for the Zimbabwe-Mozambique province, as well as the National Movement for Catholic Students in Zimbabwe. My name is Agyver. I am an advocate and a member of the Catholic Lawyers Guild, as well as the Dominican Youth Movement, St. Agnes and Alois Guild, as well as an alumna of the National Movement for Catholic Students. This episode is a build-up of a conversation that began before and even after the release of the pastoral letter by the Zimbabwe Catholic Bishops' Conference entitled "The March is Not Ended." The pastoral letter was issued on 14 August 2020. It made a strong statement and a serious call for change in the light of economic, political, and social crisis in the country. I'm sure if you missed the first two episodes of our podcast, you can watch them on this channel. Today, like the title of this podcast, we want to go beyond the hype. We want to talk about the practical steps we can take to make the letter alive in our daily lives. To ponder on the pastoral letter titled "The March is Not Ended," we want to seek meaning through action. With me here, to my right, is Vimbai Chiweshe, the Catholic Commission for Justice and Peace Programs Officer for Harare. She's a youth leader. To my left is Hama Chinhoi, who is a former president for the National Movement for Catholic Students. He is a former coordinator of MAGIS, Zimbabwe, and he's as well a youthful engineer. Welcome, guys.
Thank you very much.
So we've had moments of celebrating that we are Catholics, moments of solidarity with our bishops. We've been proud that at a critical moment in the history of our lives as Zimbabweans, the bishops have stepped up and made a statement. But the question now is, what comes after the hype? Did the bishops call us to march? If yes, what is that march and when does it start? These and more pragmatic questions are what we want to seek to maybe begin to answer in this conversation today. So, ladies first, the bishops raised several questions in the statement. They raised several issues. Some have appeared in their earlier writings from previous pastoral letters going over the years. What key issues do you get and how do they relate to you as a young Zimbabwean?
I think one of the key issues for me is, I quote from the pastoral letter, peace building and nation building are never completed tasks. The bishops are just calling us as a nation to continue towards building our nation. I'm sure where we are right now as a nation and as a young generation is not where we expected to be, having gone to school, having gotten degrees, etc., etc. I feel we would have wanted more. So I think the core as a young person is a march towards the Zimbabwe that we want, which is from another pastoral letter written from the bishops as well. And it's an ongoing process. Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Hama. For Vimbai, peace building for you?
Okay, so for me, I look at it this way. The march, it's not like a march, a physical march where we're going to walk into the street and demonstrate or something of that nature. But it's the daily struggle that we've been fighting ever since time immemorial. We are born in a world where they are full of inequalities and injustices. So the struggle has always been there. These things have been talked about: fighting poverty, eradicating diseases, equality for all. A lot of issues, they are always being talked about. We even have Millennium Development Goals and all these things that are coming up. So it's this struggle that we're having, that relentless desire to want a better life for ourselves. So probably we'll fight the battle, we'll fight part of the fight ourselves, we will leave it on to the others to continue, because these things have always been discussed about and they're still there, they're still affecting us. So in this very context that we're in today, as Zimbabweans, we are struggling. Our political and economic situation is not as ideal as we would have wanted it to be. It's not pushing for growth of us young people to realize the dreams that we had from a very young age. So we are saying, no, the march should continue on our part. We need to take a stand and to say, this is the Zimbabwe that we want. So that's how I would look at it from how the bishops put it across.
All right. Thank you very much. What do you think the church ought to do now? I mean, the shepherds have issued a pastoral letter. The congregants have said we are in alignment with the bishops, we agree with the contents of the pastoral letter. But what steps do we take? Is the church doing enough by simply issuing a statement? What practicality is there to the march is not ended?
For me, I believe, you've asked a lot of questions there.
Right.
But yes, is the pastoral letter in itself enough? Let's start looking at the pastoral letter. This is not the first pastoral letter that the church has produced. There have been many others produced before. So the church is still taking up its role to speak out and to speak for the people. A lot of people believe their solution is going to come from the church. So the church, for me, should continue to write. But it's not only, when we speak of the church, the bishops should continue to write. But what do we do as Catholics, as young people, as guild members, as different affiliations in the church? I think that's what we need to then really reflect upon. I will speak probably from the commission side, because we recently had an interview with the bishop who also said, as the bishops, we have the capacity to write, but we also need the support of the local Catholics within the different parishes to help to disseminate the message. So it starts with ensuring that everyone we can get access to gets to read and understand and appreciate the message that is coming from the church. And then for those of us who have different roles that we can use, Hama as an engineer has fellow engineers he can actually give the letter to, and they can understand and use it. As an advocate, I believe Agyver, you can also take it and share it. And I think through the different channels, through the different offices that we have with the different Catholic youth in their different capacities, we can spread the pastoral letter. Is it enough? Well, it's maybe it's not enough, and more can be done. But are we all taking up our roles? Are we not just leaving it to the bishops to do all the work, to write and then take out the letter to the people? Are we also taking up our roles to also distribute, disseminate the information and bring about a change through the letters that we're receiving? Yes.
All right, very interesting. I've just now been reminded that I only rejoined the Small Christian Community WhatsApp group after the pastoral letter had come out. So I can't say whether it was shared in my SEC grouping or not.
Yes.
But maybe it's something that we want to look into. Hama, do you perchance attend Small Christian Community section zone meetings?
Yeah, to be honest, no. I haven't been attending those. But of course, there are other platforms where we discuss such issues.
Certainly.
Yeah, definitely. So, as Vimbai said, there are many other areas. We are part of the church. It's not only the bishops. The bishops, what they did was to set the tone for us, to have a starting point. I think that was the cry before, to say the bishops are not doing anything, but the church takes its time. So they set the tone for us. So it's now entirely up to us to really also help in the dissemination, as Vimbai said. And in our different associations, guilds, small Christian communities, as you're saying, we go further. It's unfortunate that when this letter was probably first publicized, the message that got to most people was the government rebuttal of the letter. So imagine my grandmother listening to Radio Zimbabwe in the rural areas, and she hears for the first time, no, the Catholic bishops, they are busy bashing the government, that the government is not doing enough and all these things. So they actually even surprised was they've been loyal members of the church since the early 1930s, 1940s, and they will be surprised to say, but why would the church do that? So I think it's also about correcting the narrative to say, no, it's not a demonstration of 31 July, no. But it's a demonstration of what our lives have been and what we aspire to have going forward. So I think we all have to play a part. So in wherever I am, I will play a part and witness to the letter, and also putting it into context, break it down to different thematic areas, then look at actionable areas as to how we can proceed going forward. Because yes, we can talk about it, but talking alone is not enough. We need to put it into action so that at least the fruits of the bishops are realized through us, the flock. And I'm sure once we do that, they themselves, they are ready to also render their utmost support to us to continue in the conversation and also the action points that we would want to take up.
All right, you raise a critical issue there, Hama, about skilling in as far as sharing and information dissemination is concerned. I mean, a certain level of skilling is required to break down aspects of the pastoral letter to, shall I say, the grassroots level. But also the bishops themselves in the pastoral letter speak to this aspect of skilling, about having a particular emotional quotient, a particular way of thinking, a particular skill set that is necessary for progression within the national developmental discourse. I mean, as a young Catholic, what areas or what interests you about this area of skilling? I'm thinking at some point I would want to see Hama Chinhoi run up for Member of Parliament, but perhaps you've got other ideas in as far as national discourse and contributing to the national skill set is concerned.
Yes, very, very importantly. I think as young people, we have different talents and we have different gifts that we can use. So one of them, as I said earlier on, we need to really action these things. Was talking about them, yes, it's fine, but yeah, we really need to put it into action. So how I can do it, like for myself, I'm a young engineer, probably one day I would aspire to hold office, but I cannot just wake up and hold office tomorrow. I should set an example today in wherever I am. So myself, I'm a young engineer, I'm in charge of various projects. So if I'm doing my housing projects, for example, in Vuri there, then I start cutting corners, I start engaging in corrupt activities, the quality of work goes down and it's not to the proper standard that is required, then I'm shortchanging myself and the community that is going to benefit from that particular development that is going on. So it should start from there, that I should be able to do the proper thing, to chase excellence in whatever that I'm doing and do it the right way, so that even those people who are there, they can witness tomorrow to say that I know we had wanted a young engineer who came and did the right thing. Our road is supposed to be 7 meters wide, it's 7 meters wide. We are supposed to have clean water, we have clean water. We're supposed to have good functioning sewer systems, and we have that. So people should be able to appreciate. Then even if I say I'm coming to run for office tomorrow, that's when I can what? Well, even they, the people, they can say, no, this one, we know him, we can vouch for him because he came here, he developed our place and left it a much better place than it was. So the skilling, it's a process that starts from a very young age, not when I'm 45, I will start to do the right thing. No. It starts now. So at this very moment, I should be able to stand for the truth, for what is right, and do what is right. So in that, I will grow. Even in the Bible, it says, for those whom little is trusted, more will be given. So if I'm not trustworthy in the small things, then definitely in the big things, it will still continue. I will still be the leader that I despise today. So for me to do that, I need to start now. My record now should speak, so that even tomorrow, when people see me as a strict and firm person, they would say, yes, we knew this was always coming because we saw it from the very first day. So I think that's what the bishops are also talking about. It's our attitude as individuals to say, we are going to stand for the right thing, irrespective of the political climate, the economical conditions, or the temptation to want to do what is wrong. So the skilling starts from within, then also acquired from our peers and from what we learn, and not wanting to repeat the same mistakes that we have seen happening before.
All right. A key issue there, to whom much is given, much is also expected.
Mm-hmm.
Do you agree with me that we have a role to play in the national discourse?
We certainly do. We have a big role to play, and I think we have an even bigger role to play because we are the generation that's crying. We are the generation that feels we've been shortchanged the most. But we're also the generation that seemingly seems to want to take a back seat. So I had a conversation earlier with one of my colleagues, and I was asking, when did we have the last elections? And I think he said 2017. And I was asking, 2017, 2018, I don't remember. But we had a research as an office then. And I see you're both laughing. And I won't ask you this question, but we had a research that we carried out. And it was around youth participation in elections. Do youth register to vote? Do the youth actually go to cast their vote come voting day? And history has shown that ever since the first election, every 5 years, the number reduces and reduces and reduces. And of that number, I think the youth number, the youth percentage plays a critical role. So we want to be heard, but we also don't want to come out and speak. We want our thoughts, our ideas to be taken seriously, but we don't want to actually participate in the national discourse. That vote that you're going to cast, at least if you're going to speak out, speak as a person who participated, not as a person who's chosen to take a back seat and say, I'm not going to be involved in this. So I think we do have a key role to play. We have a key role to play.
Definitely we do.
All right, an interesting point is made there about the youth quotient on the voters' roll. Hama, what should we as young people come together for?
Okay, there's a lot to come together for as young people. I think when that term is used, usually people think of having fun, partying, but I think more personally, Pope Francis, during the World Youth Day of 2016, he mentioned that a lot of us have now become, especially the young people, we've become couch Christians, where we are just sitting on social media, hashtagging. Hashtagging is not bad, to be honest, but what we need to do is to come together, have a proper sit down, have clear action points to say ourselves want to participate probably in the upcoming elections. What are we going to do? So it starts from the collaborative effort to say we have these people with various gifts. This one is very good with design graphics. This one is good with public speaking. This one is good with that. Then we rally behind our people and to say, okay, this is what we want to do. So we are going to support you and materially, where we can also, by the different skills that we possess, we can then come together. So it's about collaborating at the end of the day, coming together and saying, we have this goal that we want. And I think I can take it back to even the time of the liberation struggle. It was young people who told that. Robert Mugabe, Joshua Nkomo, the current president, they were very young people, probably teenagers or in their early 20s, when they decided to say, guys, we are going to have this clear action. It might take us time, probably 20, 30 years to realize, but what we are saying is we will start it now. When we are young, we still have the energy. So we have the energy. What we need to do now is to bring our clear heads together, remove some of that polarization that divides us, to look at things from one perspective, but to look at it on a wholesome level and say, this is what we want to do, and we'll take it up from here. And we'll support our person going through thick and thin, because it is going to be a tough road. Nothing good ever comes easy. It doesn't happen that way. We have to fight for it. But how we fight is no longer about taking the gun, but it's about using our intelligence, the experiences that we have learned from others, to use that and then go forward to achieve the goals that we want to achieve, even if it's business, not politics. To say we want to start a business as young Catholics, or our fellow young Catholics have started, let's collaborate, let's assist them. Not saying at the end of the day, just give me the service, we are friends, we have known each other from way back, so it won't work like that. So it's the collaboration, but the collaboration needs a little bit of sacrifice, a lot of commitment, and a lot of trust going forward.
All right, it's I must confess, a bit strange for me to have to imagine former President Mugabe as a young person at any point. It's like seeing the Pope as a young person. Those images in my head, to just have them as old people. But I get where you're coming from, and your thrust that we should really push towards political action and political transformation and change. But Vimbai, I know you're a driver of social transformation. I know that the peace space, the humanitarian space, is where you do your best work. So what, in your view, should we push for?
We should push for, I'll speak directly, because we have a project that we're implementing currently, and it's on social cohesion. And Hama spoke a bit about it, polarization. We have very polarized communities right now. People can't come together for the most basic thing. You talk about access to water, you talk about a community borehole. Someone has to pay $1 just to get access to water right now. Someone has to pay 5 bond or whatever amount just for them to be able to get access to clean water. And then we're divided among so many lines, be it political, be it social, religious, but generally as a people we are divided. And as a commission, what we're looking into is trying to look at the social teachings of the church and saying, if you take up the principle of common good, for example, what is good for me should be good for Hama. What is good for me should be good for Agyver. If it only satisfies my needs, then it doesn't have the common good. It doesn't bring about what the needs of the general community are. So I think it's something that we really need to look into and say, what has divided us as a community? Is it just political lines? At times it's not. It's about the resources that we have within the community that we're not sharing amongst ourselves. It's about access to those few resources that are there, or those many resources that are being taken by very little people, but who are then taking them up at the expense of the rest of the community. So in terms of peace building and community cohesion, what we're saying is we're trying to strengthen our message on the social teachings of the church, common good, participation. What are we doing in terms of trying to bring back our communities, to take away the whole conversation from just the political lines, but to bring it back to the simplest community initiatives, the simplest community things that we need within the community that we're living in. And I think that's something that can help to then strengthen our communities more.
All right, Prof. I recall there is an aspect of the social teachings of the church, I think, that says that if you, as Vimbai, have 2 jackets, and there's someone out there without a jacket, then there's something obviously wrong with that situation.
Yes.
Yeah, so the basic communities, I know we have issues with urban communities, for instance, urban youth. They are, at least in as far as my youth groups on WhatsApp are concerned, there are people who would say, look, I'm not talking politics, but I'm complaining that corruption is bad. And I found myself from time to time saying, look, even if you're talking politics, it's your birthright to speak of politics. It's your entitlement to go into community engagement. How do we sort of sensitize the people, including people who are not on WhatsApp, people in non-urban settings? How do we assist with this sort of awareness that, look, everybody is entitled to a stake in as far as national discourse is concerned? Everybody has a role to play. Do you have any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first challenge that we face is we've come from a very repressive period, for actually a very long period, where anything that was termed political can get you harassed or probably abducted. A lot of bad things that could happen to anyone. So that fear, I think, it still lives within us. Failing to clearly articulate our issues, especially if it has some political connotations to it, we always have challenges. But then I think platforms like these ones, for example, they are good for discussion, because there is that strength that comes with numbers, and also probably it's like a church-driven process. So we are more free to talk about. So I think that's where, as the church, we have that platform to offer, especially for us young people, to offer to come and really discuss our issues. And here with you, Agyver and Vimbai, we can really talk freely about it without having to fear anything. So I think it's these platforms, probably if they can continue to go, then I think it's very important. It's the first step. So within our small communities, our small environments, even if I'm at home with my young brothers, I should be able to discuss with them openly, to tell them that this is what we are ought to do, this is what we ought to do, because politics definitely will affect each and every aspect of my life. So we really need to discuss about it. We need to talk about it openly without having to fear. So even when we discuss like this on ourselves, if we go and present it as a united front, it's much more likely to be accepted rather than going freelance and being alone trying to challenge the whole system at an individual basis. Sometimes it might not work in your advantage, but what is ideal is to come together in our groups. We discuss. If there are any fears, we try to also demystify them, continuously trying to orient the people as to how they can best discuss these issues without sounding to be leaning towards one side or not. Because, to be honest, crying for your rights, it's like, for example, utilization of resources in the way that is going to benefit the whole nation. It's not something that is bad. To cry for good healthcare is not something that is wrong. To cry for good education is not something that is wrong. Good infrastructure, we all need those things for us to realize that good economy, that middle class economy that we are trying to achieve. So we are going to discuss. So no matter how much we try to run away from it, everything will come back to that political sphere. So I think platforms like these ones can really help to engage in proper discussion as to how we can proceed talking about politically sensitive matters, but in a way that is cohesive and also persuasive at the same time. So we would want that, definitely.
If I may just add, like, in brief,
Sure.
I think just to add on to what Hama has said, I think we need to strengthen our institutions. Generally, our institutions have been used to take us away from the right path. For example, we have traditional leaders as an institution. You'll find that when you go to the rural areas, you spoke about how do we disseminate information in the rural areas, etc. Traditional leaders are a voice that can be listened to in rural areas, but they're also a voice that is being used almost against the will of the people in most of these situations. So we need to target our institutions, find ways in which we can bring back our institutions to the book, give them access to the Constitution, Traditional Leaders Act, for example, make them understand what their mandate is, how they're supposed to serve the people. And through this, we can then take these pastoral letters through traditional leaders and they can take them out to the people because the people still listen to such institutions. So we really need to work on strengthening our institutions.
All right.
Just before we
your
close,
parting shot.
on this particular matter, definitely. I
Yes.
think also in addition, leveraging the use of social media. I think social media has become a very important tool for information dissemination, for engagement. I know there are also other challenges like cyberbullying that then come into play. But I think it's also a platform where we can discuss. I've met a lot of people who are Catholics or even non-Catholics whom we've engaged on a very good debate because of such platforms and such discussions that happen through influential people who are within the church. So I think social media again can be a very good or a very useful tool of communication of our message and how we would want to discuss.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Any last words? Something you would want to say before you die?
Just that it is the hope of young people, it is my hope as a young person to actually live to see the Zimbabwe that we want, a better Zimbabwe where there's running water, there's medicines in a hospital, there's fuel. I don't have to be in a queue for 4 hours. I think basically those are my last words. I long to see the Zimbabwe that we want.
All right.
So can you give me one more chance?
All right. Okay. No
Yeah,
problem.
speaking in addition to what Vimbai has said, I think, to be honest, especially for me, my passion really is on infrastructure development, both physical and digital infrastructure. So physical infrastructure, it's the WASH issues he has been talking about. This is water, sanitation, hygiene, and everything. Then also we have our roads, a very functioning railway network, good hospitals, good schools, good communication infrastructure. Then when it comes to digital, especially this is where I really want to talk about. Digital infrastructure, it really helps, drives a lot of innovation. I think the other challenge that we're having, especially even for government, failing to create new jobs is, it's been a long time since we had a multi-billion dollar company coming out of Zimbabwe. And the recent billion-dollar company that was here, it's I think Cassava Smart Tech, which is a digital-driven company. So everything digital, they're trying to digitalize everything. So I think armed with the computer and the right skills, we can have more entrepreneurs who can create multi-billion dollar companies, which will then translate into more job creation. I think recently there was this new application, TikTok. It's the latest Silicon Valley company to become the Silicon Valley of China company to become a billion-dollar company. So it's just one person who created this very good video application and they've put it out there. It's now creating a whole lot of noise, and they are now employing quite a lot of people, thousands and thousands of them. So I think digital innovation can really help us to create the affluent life that we are all dreaming about, that we all want, and create the much needed employment and also more revenue to government and everyone through remittances of checks and everything. But otherwise, if we don't look around those areas, to be honest, these are the entrepreneurship that we are having. It's not really assisting to make sure that the country goes forward in the direction that we want. So I think digital infrastructure has a lot of capacity and a lot of opportunities for us to grow and become a better people. This is what we long for, to see amongst Zimbabweans, you owning a house at before 30, each and every one of us. I think that's what we wanted, but now it's very, very impossible even to get that piece of land. But it shouldn't be like that in a properly functioning economy.
All right. Thank you very much. There you have it. The salt for the earth, the light for the world. Thank you.